We're
I am
alive.
the worst, Aaron. That's quite all right. We're the worst. Aaron Fitt and Sean Manuel here, everybody. I'm on this side of the Baseball America podcast nook. Love our little banner here. Aaron Fitt is there in Louisville, Kentucky. Aaron, this podcast is brought to you by Baseball America's draft offer. Don't forget that if you go to baseballamerica.com/subscribe, you get 1 free month of premium content if you subscribe now. And as it says on the website, get all our best stuff. The BA 500's online today, new mock draft. All 16 regionals are previewed. Most of that's free for those scouting reports for the draft and all of our features, analysis, top 10 prospects in the offseason, all that good stuff. Subscribe now, baseballamerica.com/subscribe. Aaron, why don't you tell the listeners and the viewers why you are in Louisville and why that was the most attractive regional that you wanted to go to this first weekend?
I think it's really compelling, John. I think that, first of all, the potential for a Louisville versus Kentucky showdown in one of these games is exciting because anytime you get two in-state rivals, I think in one regional that have never played in the postseason before, this is something new. It's not like Miami and Florida or Clemson and South Carolina where it's I don't want to call it played out, but there's more. It's been done before. This has not happened before, and certainly watching the National Player of the Year to be A.J. Reed, who's taking batting practice right now as I sit here. That's another added bonus here. I just saw him last week. The guy's always fun to watch. He's a treat. Kansas, I think, is a really good 3 seed that could really make some noise here. I think they're flying a little bit under the radar. People aren't talking about those guys as much, but they're a balanced team. They have 3 quality starters, which some of these other teams maybe don't have. I mean, even Louisville now, without Jared Ruxer, they're a little bit short on the mound. So I think they're going to throw Funkhauser today, their ace, which is kind of what Dan McDonald likes to do. Typically throws his number 1 guy in the first game. And Kent State's dangerous because, hey, you got a quality number 1 guy with Brian Clark, who's a physical left-hander, run up 94, good slider, and that guy can beat you. So I think it makes sense for Louisville to throw Funkhauser today. I imagine it'd be Kidston tomorrow. They've got arms. They can piece it together. I love their bullpen. I don't know who's going to win this thing. I think it's wide open and pretty exciting.
Yeah, I almost forgot the A.J. Reed factor. Just probably a favored player for the 2014 College Player of the Year. And we've talked a little bit about him this year. Let's talk a little bit more about him. As you're watching him there take BP, I mean, you've seen him over his career. When I first started making draft calls in late March, early April, he came across as like the Brian Johnson comps we've always gotten, and that he was going to probably go out as a pitcher. People didn't seem to believe in the bat, but man, how can you not believe in the bat with every home run? I mean, I know you've written about him some this year, but let's talk a little bit more about A.J. Reed. Can you remember a player improving this much from one year to the next? I mean, because Chris Bryant, I think we always thought he was going to be a big deal, always thought he'd be a first-round pick. But A.J. Reed, I don't think you would have put him on if you had 10 guys you thought could win the award, he would not have been in that top 10 to start the year. He might not have been in the top 25. I'm just stunned that he's lapped the field. Aren't you pretty stunned that he's had this kind of a season and so much better than everyone else has had?
Yeah, it's a historic season. And this guy was a first-team preseason All-American, but it was at the 2A position where there's not as much competition. I remember when he was voted onto that pretty easily by scouting directors, you and I had a conversation, and it sounded like you weren't even sold on him as a first-team All-American. And
Correct.
If I recall, I mean,
Correct.
but the guy has performed for 3 years. I mean, he's been a big performer, but he really has elevated it to a higher level this year. And it's funny, I just saw him pop a ball off the batting cage there, and then rolled over one to first base, and he threw his bat in disgust when his batting practice session was over. This is a guy that demands perfection from himself, I think. But boy, he's awesome. I mean, he's just we've talked about this before, but I don't know how anyone could be more valuable. Going 10-2 in the SEC as a Friday night guy, that alone is impressive. 23 home runs, lead the nation slugging. I mean, come on, it's an insane season, and a guy that is just, I mean, I don't know who else in the last 2 decades has had a season this good.
I agree, Aaron. Let's go to Twitter. We've got a lot of questions on Twitter. Let's take some of those for the rest of the Hangout. I want to make sure I find the right one. Well, first of all, you mentioned it about Jared Ruxer's injury, Tommy John surgery for him. Doesn't feel like that affects. I mean, obviously it affects Louisville, but he wasn't their number one guy. He was almost kind of barely their number two guy, right? I mean, his slider, it's like it had kind of gone backwards this year, and he's a sinker slider guy. You become a sinker guy if you don't have that slider really working.
Yeah, that's true. But I think he still flashed it, and he had a good season for them. I think the velocity was better, the command was better than it was last year. He was really good as a freshman 2 years ago, and then he really struggled last year with his confidence and some mechanical things. And he was a key piece for them this year. He really bounced back strong. So we'll see how they respond to that and what they do with their pitching. I still really like the way their bullpen is structured. Those two lefties back there, McGrath and Sturgeon, around Nick Birdie, of course, and some of the depth that they have on this staff. I mean, they recruit so well every year. They're so loaded with quality arms, even guys that haven't pitched as often. Some of those guys might have to come up big here and take on larger roles than they have for most of the season.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good way to win a regional anyway. Is to ask, especially if you have that kind of pitching depth, and that will certainly be tested for the Cardinals today. Our old friend Tucker Blankenship, it doesn't have NC State to talk about this week, but he is asking who of Clemson, Georgia Tech, Maryland, or North Carolina do you give the best shot at winning a road regional? Aaron, it feels like Georgia Tech, they're in a tough regional. They've certainly played well of late. Obviously, won the ACC tournament. I don't know. None of those ACC teams really feels capable of going on the road and winning a regional this year. I would say none of them. If I had to pick one that has the best chance, I guess I would pick Georgia Tech, even though they're in a tough regional.
Yeah, I probably would diverge from you on that one. I think Ole Miss is a juggernaut. Really, I think they're very good, especially at home.
Oh, I agree.
And Washington as a 2 seed, I think, is also a lot better than Georgia Tech. For me, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think any of those teams are going to win a regional, but Maryland with their two arms, I mean, I could see them, getting off to a 2-0 start and then cobbling together a third win. I don't think they're going to win a regional in Columbia. I mean, it's the first time in the postseason for that program. South Carolina doesn't lose regionals at home. But how about Clemson?
They don't lose games at home.
No, they don't. You're right. Clemson's the sleeper. That's the team that was preseason 12 or 13. Yeah, they've underachieved this year, but they still have like 7 All ACC players or something. I mean, the sum is less than the parts here for a lot of this season, but the parts are still pretty impressive. I mean, they've got a lot of athleticism. I've talked about this a lot. The athleticism, they got some power. They got a lot of speed. They're aggressive on the bases. It's just a matter of will the pitching hold up? Do they have enough? And I think I heard they're not going to throw Daniel Gossett in the first game against Oregon. So if they can
Correct, they're going with Matthew Crownover, who's going to give up a long home run to Sean Chase today. Personal cheeseball, Sean Chase.
You love Sean Chase.
I'm just stunned that an Oregon player led the Pac-12 in home runs.
Yeah.
I'm just flabbergasted that he hit more than like 5 teams by himself, and he has a home run every 10 at bats. I am over the moon for this guy. Every video I watch, he's pimping home runs, Aaron. I mean, he's the opposite of the old Pat Murphy palms down.
Right.
The game doesn't give you anything. Don't have your palms up, asking the game to give you something. They use their palms down. And that's what they used to talk about. We don't pimp home runs. We play palms down. Andrew Beinbrink, Willie Bloomquist. Willie Bloomquist remembers all this stuff. I just talked to him this year about it. But Sean Chase is like, hit the home run, hold the freaking bat up there, take it with you for 10 steps. That guy's hashtag swag. I mean,
reminds me of
I like watching that guy hit.
Reminds me of this little girl I saw in the spelling bee when I was at the airport yesterday on mute. She was celebrating like crazy, arms up, strutting, fist pumps. I mean, it sounds like what you're talking about here.
It is what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm not picking Clemson for that reason. I agree with you on Georgia Tech. I agree with that. Ole Miss and Washington are really good, but I think Oregon is comparable to Washington. Washington was better this year, no doubt about that. But I like the way Georgia Tech plays. It's not really a slumping team, and they kind of do have some pitching depth and some toughness.
Yeah.
So I like them out of those ACC teams, but we agree. We don't expect any of those ACC teams to go on the road and win a regional.
Do you think, John? Do you think North Carolina can make any noise down in Gainesville? I mean, you've seen a lot of the Tar Heels. My thought is no, but that's I don't know. I mean, they do have some pitching. I think their bullpen really did coalesce in the second half of the year after they lost Chris McHugh. Certainly Trent Thornton, and if Ben Moss is on, I mean, maybe they got a chance.
I agree with you. It's the offense is the whole issue. North Carolina doesn't have dominant pitching, but they do have 7 pitchers. They have some depth. They have Thornton and Riley Hovis, who are flexible. One could start, one could close. Wouldn't shock me if they extended Hovis this weekend. You
Yeah,
got Ben Moss, who's got a lot of experience, and then you've got Zach Gallen, the freshman, who's really been their best starter the last 4 or 5 weeks. He's been a little bit more consistent, frankly, than Trent Thornton, who gave it up in the ACC tournament out of the bullpen to Maryland. So you've got that. Then you have these 4 pitchers they trust in the bullpen. Hovis, as I said, Zach Rice, Spencer Trainer, Trevor Kelly. I think it really all just comes down to Bolton Lassiter, as it has most of the year. So Michael Russell's playing today, starting at shortstop. So his back spasms, he's apparently over that. I think North Carolina to be very good next year. I think they're a little callow to be good this year. But if Bolton Lassiter have a big weekend, I think you line their talent up. They're not as deep as Florida. They're not that much less talented. They're less talented, but they have potential impact, Aaron, on the field. Sky Bolt might have the most potential impact of any position player in that regional. Maybe
yeah.
Garrett Hampson, the shortstop for Long Beach State. But so I could see Carolina winning that. I could see North Carolina going 0-2 in that regional, to be honest with you. So they're just a very thin margin for error team this year, and their offense just for me, has not been consistent enough for them to beat good pitching teams like that. Aaron, I wasn't sure if you had any opinion on any of these MLB draft questions. We have a lot of draft questions on Twitter. You wrote up Brady Aiken. You've seen Carlos Rodon. Gut feel, Aaron. Who would you rather take if you were the Astros picking first, and if the price tag is $6 million? If both those players are going to sign for $6 million, just throwing that number out there to make your decision easier, who would you take, Rodon or Aiken?
We had this discussion yesterday, and I hesitate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I threw it out there yesterday. And I did not get this from a scout. I'll throw that caveat out there. I just pulled this off the top of my head yesterday. I don't think Aiken is that different from what Clayton Kershaw was in high school. And if you go back and look at our draft report on Kershaw out of high school, it reads very similarly to what Aiken's report reads. They're both kind of 88 to 91, summer before their senior year. Velocity leapt. They're both now 90, 96 kind of as seniors. Both can really spin the curveball. Both athletic and physical, and great deliveries and poise and throw strikes. I mean, you don't want to compare anyone to Clayton Kershaw, but hey, if the guy's going to be a potential number 1 pick, I think it's okay to dream on that kind of upside. I think I take Aiken.
I like the way you put that. I'm going to do a little research myself on that Kershaw comp of yours. Because it's not like a comp. You're just saying that the situations are similar. And I like how you frame that. I like it, Fitzy. It's bold. And that's what we have in today's mock draft. Mock drafts up at baseballamerica.com. 16 regional previews up at baseballamerica.com. Aaron's in Louisville. Where's Jimmer? Where's old Jim Schonard?
He's in Columbia.
They rolled out the garnet carpet for Jim Schonard in Columbia, so he'll be down there for that regional. And then, Aaron, are you going to stick with this Louisville to the super regional conclusion, or are you going to kind of play it by ear for where you wind up for super regional?
Yeah, that's to be determined next week. I've got a couple of things I'm kicking around. Wouldn't mind getting down to see either Louisiana Lafayette or Ole Miss, perhaps whoever hosts that regional, or maybe perhaps a Virginia South Carolina showdown could be appealing too. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I'm thinking that if one of the other Texas teams upsets TCU, you're going to just head back to Baggett Stadium for a Cal Poly Super.
That'd be great.
That's my guess. Yeah, Menlo Park, the very clean McDonald's there right off the highway that I used the Wi-Fi of and booked my hotel room last March. So I have fond memories of the nuclear power plant behind the rock and sunset over the Pacific. Good times.
Morro
All right,
Bay.
Fitzy, I'm a little loopy today too. We better cut it off. Before it gets extra loopy. I do actually have something to tell people that I've neglected here. That is that Baseball America's Google Hangouts and all of our posts and coverage is sponsored by DeMarini. Visit DeMarini.com to see the 2014 lineup of DeMarini BB Corbats, including the CF6 with D-Fusion handle technology. Visit DeMarini.com. You can always follow all your college baseball updates with @AaronFit or again at Jim Schoner BA. He's the regional down in Columbia. I'm at John Manuel BA. It's been another Baseball America Google Plus Hangout. For Aaron, I'm John. Peace out.